This is Gary Butterfield.
This is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Best Quality Vacuum, our show about the extended Vince Gilliverse. That's Breaking Bad, El Camino, and Better Call Saul.
And get ready for bummers front to back here. This is a bummer of an episode.
Indeed.
And not bummer in like bad quality. I mean, just bummer in like, it's hard to watch.
It's largely a bad quality and incongruous because it's the one where Jesse and Walt get their powers. And I've been waiting a couple seasons for that to happen.
Yeah.
And I just feel like the way they did it was a little contrived.
Yeah.
You know, radiation.
And enter the Surf Dracula tweet.
Yes. Yeah. No, this is the end of season 2. This is ABQ. An excellent episode of the show.
Yes.
And in terms of performance, the strongest I think we've seen yet. Everyone is giving it their fucking all. Everybody deserves all the awards for this one. I don't think they all got them for this one, but they should have.
No, they really should have. Everybody showed up.
Yes.
Is the thing. Like, we get a real standout, incredibly satisfying Skylar scene, actually. Yeah. We'll talk about all of them as they go. But this is a momentous episode because it again establishes the new status quo, something that we love in media. We do have to deal with. We've got to suffer the Magnolia stuff a little bit with the plane crash, but
yeah, you have to come to peace with that. Like, once we've had a long time to come to peace with that.
Yes, we have.
Since this aired.
Yeah.
This episode, written by Vince Gilligan, directed by Adam Bernstein, originally aired May 31st, 2009.
Yes. And this episode primarily deals with the aftermath of Jane's death / Walt's murder of Jane. There's a whole wide variety of interpretations you can put there, but Jane's dead. And things need to be dealt with. Primarily Jesse is destroyed, and so is her dad, Donald.
Yes. And while this is happening, this is about as obvious as they've ever been in this show of using juxtaposition.
Yes.
So while this is happening, things are looking pretty up for Walt in a lot of ways. Like, at the end, it's not, and there are some bad things, but he's preparing for his lobectomy surgery. They have a newborn whom they're fond of. It's working out.
The kid lived there for a while.
Yeah. So things, there's a contrast between these two things. For Walt, a problem is solved. For Jesse, a huge problem is created.
Yeah.
Even though Walt is still feeling bad about the unintentional money laundering site, and we get our the final scene of the show, which sets up a whole new deal for everything, which I really love. So things get bad for Walt after this very, very brief victory.
Yes.
Here.
Speaking of victories, we get Mike in this episode. We're not going to see Mike again as a main factor for a while. I forgot how long it took for him to actually, be a regular player in this. But Mike Ehrmantraut, nature's all-star, showing up as a cleaner. I don't even think he gets a name here. I think he's called Saul's guy.
They called him backstage. They just referred to him as Mike, but it's never in the show.
Okay.
So they knew he was Mike, but they did not know he was going to be a thing.
Right.
At least according to the podcast here. Jonathan Banks, Mike Ehrmantraut, is one of the singular pleasures of this whole scenario. This whole scene. It's a thing that, like, as much as when we get into Better Call Saul, we'll talk about it. One of the big criticisms is that the Saul stuff is good and the cartel stuff is bad. I've never bought that because, like, one, yes, we know how the cartel stuff ends, so it's not as dramatically rich. But I will watch Mike Ehrmantraut just for eternity. Like, I wanted to know how he got there, and the performance and the character is just one of my all-time favorite things.
Yeah.
I'm never going to turn down Mike Ehrmantraut.
Nope.
For anything. I love Mike Ehrmantraut.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to see him. Everything about his character is here right now, right from the beginning. Like, even though they didn't plan to use him, he's so well realized.
Yeah.
Right here. He doesn't get a lot of screen time, but what he does it feels like later Mike.
Yeah.
It feels like he came fully formed.
And he's a scene stealer, right? Like,
oh my God.
you have to. I don't know. Maybe they say this in the later commentaries, or maybe they say this in the podcast episode. But like, I don't know. I remember watching this episode when it aired and thinking, okay, that guy rules.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
and just how smart is it that they recognize, like, oh, we accidentally like hit on something really, really good here. We need him back as a figure in this.
Yep. Bears exploring, and the idea of, when Better Call Saul came out, it came with bonus shows.
Yeah,
like it's like us getting the exploration of Mike, and origin of Mike, and kind of seeing how that develops is just a lovely bonus.
Yeah.
He's an accident, which is great. This was originally going to be Bob Odenkirk coming in doing this, but he was over slumming it in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, I've never seen
a paycheck on that show.
I've never seen that show. People that I know who like, sitcoms like that say it's a good one of those. I am still grateful for it because it drew Bob Odenkirk away momentarily and gave us this character.
It is a big sacrifice. I don't trust people who like sitcoms in a general sense. Like I don't know. What does a good one of those mean? I don't know. Like I've seen bits of it. Like when I used to visit my mom, she'd have that on, or like The Middle or something like that. And I'm like, what is this time traveling bullshit? Like, what is this thing that got plucked out of 30 years ago and just placed on the TV now?
The only thing I know about How I Met Your Mother is it got Jason Segel a paycheck, and that's cool.
It got Jonathan Ritter killed.
No, I think that was 8 simple rules for dating my teenage daughter. But like the meme thing was what's his name, Neil Patrick Harris's character doing this suit up thing, which is what got kind of obnoxious.
He does like sex assault in it that are played for jokes. Fun. It's that old. I don't know. I just it doesn't have to be the network's official position. My official position is fuck that show. I wouldn't watch it with your eyes. But Bob Odenkirk was off collecting a paycheck, and that meant they could bring in Jonathan Banks, who Vince Gilligan knew because he was part of the show Wise Guy, which Vince Gilligan used to watch as a kid
in college.
In college, and I don't know anything about that show. I did not know Jonathan Banks before this.
No.
But he born to play a heavy.
Born to play a heavy, except when he played an air traffic controller in an Airplane. I went and I was like, wait, Jonathan Banks was an Airplane? And you can't recognize him because that movie was made in the 70s. And he was real young, and it was a small part, but he's definitely there. You can just do a search, Jonathan Banks Airplane, and you'll just see like a montage, like a cut of all of his little bits in there. It's good. How is the podcast on this one?
It's not great. It's a lot of like production, like kind of fun production detail stuff a little bit. The main bulk of it was how to shoot the beginning scene with the plane stuff and like the logistics of it. A little bit of fun behind the scenes stuff, but not what I'm looking for. In general, a lot of praising everybody, which in this case, like totally justified. They praise everybody and everything. They do. But this time I really do feel like everybody's great. The large portion of it is the shot where the camera falls down into the pool. And how they were trying to do that. They tried to do it with weather balloons, and the weather balloons got away and then ended up in somebody's yard. And they had rented a camera that was on there, and they had to call air traffic control to say we lost some weather balloons. And it's kind of cute. But for the most emotionally devastating episode they've done, I wanted, I don't know. I didn't care about cameras during this. I really wanted character and writing insight, and there's none of that.
There was a really frustrating moment in the commentary when they got to the scene where Walt is drugged up in the hospital bed. And they complimented one of the writers for bringing back the other cell phone. Like, oh, like that's how. And Vince Gilligan says something like, story wise, it was time for the other shoe to drop for Walt, and just said it like it was just a matter of fact, like you should have just known, kind of thing. And like, why? How? Tell me.
Yeah. What's the insight? Like, yes, I agree because I like the results, but I wanted to hear about that process.
Yeah.
And I kind of get, that process is doing 6-day weeks that are 12 hours each in the writer's room.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to condense that. Like, I can imagine Vince Gilligan not really knowing the answer to that question.
Yeah.
Because it was come at through so much just time and late night conversations, but it's still the interesting thing. The other thing that I like during the podcast is they talk about how hard it is to work having Anna Gunn play Skylar, because Anna Gunn comes off as very intelligent, and it was being, it was stupid that she just was in the dark this whole time. Like, Anna Gunn doesn't play that character, and Anna Gunn would come to him and be like, how does Skylar not know?
Yeah.
And them being very happy about the ending of this. And I love this has a lot of standout scenes. The ending scene with Skylar giving the parlor speech is, maybe my secret favorite scene in this episode. And I love it as implying like, no, she did know. Yeah. Self-deception is a very powerful thing. She's not an idiot.
Yeah.
She just couldn't. This is what happens here with the second cell phone line. That's not a smoking gun. That's just the thing that knocks over the house of cards. It was a tiny little, a leaf that fell on a building, and it collapsed in a cartoon.
Yeah. So. No, it's very funny because they have John Delancey on the commentary, and
nice.
heap a lot of praise on him for it, which is. Yeah, no, it's good. He talks about like, oh, this was a great role because I, am playing against type here. People don't hire me to do stuff like this, and talked about, like him and Bryan Cranston talking about the death of Jane and like bringing their own experience, as fathers into it, like kind of unintentionally. Like there's just something about you when you are a father, or when you are a parent at all, where you
become fond of baby.
You become fond of baby. You let them live in your house for a while.
I've grown accustomed to your baby.
Yeah. And then it's like, no, just like, oh, this actually started going too deep. So just like had to bring it back a little bit more surface level. And that's what you're seeing here, blah, blah, blah. Interesting stuff, especially when it is the two actors talking about it instead of Vince being like, so how'd you feel about seeing your daughter die?
Yeah. How do you feel about seeing your daughter die?
Yeah. But there is a funny moment where John Delancey, like, there's a little bit of joking around on the commentary, but like, they're sharing just like weird stuff and congratulating each other. And John Delancey is like, like, this isn't a commentary. This is like, what is this?
Yeah, it's a good point, John Delancey.
Yeah.
Go on the podcast now and whip them into shape.
Oh man.
I love John Delancey's performance in this. They in the podcast they talk about it, but he underplays a lot of it, and I think that stepping back is really key. I did not need to see John Delancey in hysterics. I have Jesse for that. This as we'll talk about it. It's such a profound tragedy. So let's get into it.
Let's do, because this is the finale, and also it is one of the one word episode titles. ABQ. We're starting in black and white land, in the flash forward, and we're kind of getting a like composite of all of these scenes that we've seen before. All the beats there, the teddy bear being fished out of the pool, being carried out front, and we see more stuff like there are like sneakers in the bushes, stuff hanging from trees, and the body bags are loaded into a van, and as it pulls away, kind of the camera cranes up, and we see that it is from the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, as it came in and carted these bodies away.
Yep. The van pulls away. We see the image in full color, and we see two huge plumes of smoke in the distance, and the sky is absolutely chock-a-block with helicopters. Really just tempting fate of having this problem again. Like, shit, this keeps happening. There's a problem with the toilet.
God, man, I love how salient there's a problem with the toilet video is.
It's a really powerful metaphor for stuff. Just put that to YouTube if you don't know what we're talking about.
Hitman, there's a problem with the toilet.
So we begin the actual episode here with box springs moving. This is it's true. Like I love this because it's the same thing that it's semiotics for sex.
Yes.
You know, a box spring bouncing, but and heavy breathing, right? But then we find out this is Jesse giving Jane chest compressions.
Yeah.
They had to build a little fiberglass chassis for Jane during this. They talk about that a fucking lot.
Yeah. Break ribs. Yeah.
Yeah, because you have to
somebody's chest.
Yeah, in TV chest compressions aren't like real ones.
No.
You actually have to really fucking go ham on it. She's gone. And he just sobs. I mean, again, give Aaron Paul all the awards for this incredible performance of grief.
Yeah. And the way that it evolves over the course of this. I mean, both him and John Delancey do an amazing job showing that evolve. But, he is completely broken.
Yep. Walt is in his living room, and Walt is holding Holly, having a good time. He's fond of baby. And he's expecting this call.
Yeah.
He calls, and you can see him like, okay, it's time to do this. Like, and we don't hear Jesse's side of the conversation. We just hear, calm down. Everything's going to be okay. I know who to call here. And he hangs up and he sits dead-eyed. He has feelings about this. Yeah. You can argue whether, gross negligence or gross indifference, like how much he murdered Jane. But regardless, which he is not, unguilty about it.
Right. Yeah. And this is where we get Mike. He pulls up to Jesse's. I need to check and see if he's driving the same car at that point.
Sure.
I should have made a note of that because he has a very distinctive car. And Jesse is sitting out on the front steps, just blasted, right?
Yeah.
Saul Goodman sent me. And like he's here to clean up. He gloves up and scopes out the situation. Jesse's not talking. He just lets him in and kind of looks toward the bedroom, right?
Consummate professional. Mike just comes in and immediately just gets to work, bagging up all the paraphernalia, all the cash, anything that could be incriminating, puts it in, and then goes up to Jesse and does what's going to become a thing that Mike does.
Here's what's going to happen.
There's an echo of this scene many times.
Yes.
Further, here's what's going to happen. You woke up, you found her. That's all you know. Jesse kind of does a nodding motion. He goes, "Say it, please." You woke up, you found her. That's all you know. Jesse starts crying. He slaps him. Say it again and again. He understands that part of living with yourself after doing something like this is acting. This is has resonance with a very similar scene in Better Call Saul.
Yes.
You're gonna wake up tomorrow and you're gonna be actors. No 1,000-yard stairs. None of that shit. You're an actor. That's what he's explaining. And he's also has this font of knowledge that hints at his background as a former law enforcement officer.
Yeah. Gives the rundown. Like, okay, people from the Office of Medical Investigation, they're going to show up. Probably not police, depending on how busy they are. Right. And your chances are like nobody would even think to arrest you about this. You just say that you don't know anything. There's nothing to, incriminate you here. You're probably in the good. He says, do I need to state the obvious? I was not here. Right.
Yeah. Just very professional and a kindness in this kind of situation, I think, to be told exactly what to do.
Yes.
Almost
to be told what to expect. Right.
Yes. You're chaos. You have no idea. You're lost. You're spiraling. Somebody just saying, this is what's going to happen next. I mean, shit, man, even when I'm not under trauma, I want that.
Yes.
And just hang tough. You're in the home stretch. We cut over to Walt. Again, they're contrasting the day that Jesse's having and the day that Walt's having.
Yes.
More directly than they typically do. We cut over to Walt. He's pouring out cereal and he calls Junior for breakfast, but Junior won't answer until he calls him Flynn. Which a little burr in his saddle. And Skylar recognizes something's wrong with Walt. He's saying it's nothing, but then they're interrupted by the sound of a cash register ding.
So I like the cash register ding, as something that gets under Walt's skin. What I don't like is the pervasive theory online. You'll see this in the wiki. Like this even happened like on the Something Awful forums during the live watches and whatever. People were like, "Oh, this is getting under Walt's skin because it reminds him of the ding of Hector Salamanca." Like, it's the bell. It's a fucking cash register. They're different sounds.
Yeah. Also, why does that have to be the case? It's just gilding a lily. Like,
God, it's bothering him because it's money that's coming in that he quote unquote didn't earn.
It's text. That's the text of it, and sometimes the text can be enough of something, like it just, I don't know. It clever analysis will bug me the same way clever writers would do it. And the way that like that articulates in this situation is it's annoying to me that that's a fan theory, because fans should chill out and it doesn't need a theory. There's no problem that needs solving here. But if the writer went on to say like that's what they were going for, that would also annoy me, because it's solving a problem that doesn't exist and putting a hat on a hat.
Yeah.
And I think they're too smart.
It's also an annoying sound.
It's a really annoying sound. Like, if anything, it's a little weird that Flynn just is like into rocking out to the sound over and over. And I've watched a Kickstarter or a Patreon or two. I know what it's like to watch a total, but and they've received $490 so far. And Walt comes in, he's staying behind everybody, and he looks like he's gonna fucking die. He hates this. And Skylar has to press him like, isn't it remarkable what your son's done? And he has to, show this pride for your Walt's not a good actor.
No.
The same way that Jesse's being asked to act here, or, Saul and Kim get asked to act. He is not good at that. He's good at lying, but he's not good at performing or hiding things that bother him.
Yeah.
And it ends up fucking him up. Here. The roughest fucking thing in the world to me. So Donald, is driving. He calls Jane and he starts lecturing her. This is the last thing he says to her, to his knowledge. Why am I surprised I got your voicemail? Your bags better be packed when I get there. No excuse. You gotta be ready to go to rehab, which he gave her one more day for. And this mix of knowing this was going to happen and guilt at letting it happen and everything is just so goddamn profound and complicated in a way that like grief often is, but isn't portrayed as such. Like people die. It is not usually someone's fault,
right.
But when somebody dies, that the finality of that means that everything is set in stone.
Yes.
Like I don't, when my mother passed away, which is like my closest analog to, family loss, there was nothing left unsaid directly, right? Like me and my mom were in a good place. We loved each other. Like we have had a complicated relationship, but we were in a good place. At the same time, I had senses of like, I wish I had said this, what was the last thing I said to her? When was the last time like I ducked a call?
Yeah.
Because I was out. All of these things are going through, and that kind of like inevitability, guilt, finality, all of those things mixed together makes us feel very well observed. This is how I reacted to death. Like I did not lose my mind and freak out. I shut off. Like I saw a lot of my own grief processing in this.
It's I really like that both of these grief, that these two styles of grief are being shown at the same time.
Me too.
I mean, like here in the same, in the same scene, literally, like both of them are shut down at the moment. But Jesse is, I think, more emotive with it, and kind of just more, like let's say, externally processing it, because the difference is need. He needs Jane in a way that Donald does not. Right. And I don't mean to say like, oh, Donald can take or leave his own daughter, but like,
he's fond of baby.
but just like from a reliance kind of point of view. Right.
Yeah.
Like, something has been taken away from Jesse that filled kind of this void that he probably didn't know that he had. And he feels a sense of responsibility and culpability, I think even more directly than Donald might. Yeah.
Really importantly, all three of the principal people involved in this, or like related to this death, like Jesse, Walt, and Donald, I think, have a plausible culpability.
Yes.
For this, like it is very obvious to just be like, oh, Walt did it, throw it on the Walt crime list, and I'm not trying to let Walt off hooks, right? Like,
no.
I hope that is obvious from listening to the show, but like Donald did allow her to have this extra day after he found out, she was using it again. Jesse did start, bringing drugs around her again and get her off the wagon in a way. She's and Walt did allow her to die in a literal sense, but they're all kind of culpable to this. There's an element of guilt to this, and on top of the responsibility that Jane has to it, that ends up making it work as a complicated thing to chew on. I also, this is not really said in the episode, but in my mind, him seeing the ambulance, and I can only imagine like him in his heart just praying it was Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe she didn't die, maybe Jesse did, and this is all for the best.
Yeah.
But just coming in and just seeing Jesse and just his, the final, needle,
the final confirmation. Wrong kid died. Yeah. I mean, and there's also, I've never personally been the parent to somebody who suffers an addiction, and only ran into this kind of with friends or whatever. But like, if anybody close to you in your life is going through something, maybe not heroin, but like this is going through some kind of addiction, right? There is a certain amount of rehearsal in your head for like, this is probably some news I'm going to get based on what I know about the way they live their life, right?
Yeah.
And you can think that maybe you're prepared for that, and not prepared, but you can think that you've pictured it. But for Donald to roll up and see like, no, this is not just my own worry as a parent, kind of cycling in my head, my anxiety about what if I see this, but to roll up to this thing that is rolled over in your head so many times, and to see that it is real, you are actually witnessing it. Yeah.
Because to live, like when you do those preparation things, like the mind wants, the same way we were talking about with Mike, like I think that the mind, I think this is relatively universal, that you want to know what's going to happen next. Like you want to be prepared for things. You can say like, oh, I love surprises, but like you probably, you're such a dharma, you're such a free spirit. Like, but you probably, when things big things, you want to know what they're like.
Yeah.
You plan for them. You plan for the worst. However, you have to talk yourself back from that to live. Like Donald, who imagined this and planned for it and rehearsed it in his head 1,000 times, had to constantly say, you're overreacting. It will be fine.
Yeah.
All the time. And then to be made a fool by that being false, or to be made a fool by being false. It's absolutely just one of the most heartbreaking things that happen in this series. That is, tragedy upon tragedy.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, it's so goddamn good and rich. What a show.
Yeah.
It's really, really powerful and good.
Yeah. And just, his completely dead affect, but you can see it kind of just like all of this is in the face, like just the wide-eyed, just kind of like, wide-eyed, but dead everything else as he, walks in, and just is standing in the doorway as the investigators, the medical investigators, are bagging her up and moving her like you would have to move a dead body. Yeah. Right.
Like an object, and which is what she is now.
They finish zipping her up and they say, "Sir, you might not want to be here for this."
Yeah. Like, I don't know what party they have planned.
Yeah.
After the zip up, it seems like that's the end of the party for me, but like we're going to practice some cool stunts. We saw this viral video about walking a casket and kind of dancing at the same time. And we figured we'd try it. And we don't know if we're good at it yet, sir. So you don't want to be here for it.
Like, no, we're going to be buckling her in. We got to take the carpool lane to the hospital.
Yeah. We've got a nitrous tank added to the ambulance so we can drift, and we want to practice, and we don't get a lot of chance to do this, sir, and we really want to. You don't want to watch it. I don't know what they're talking about here. It seems like somebody at the door should have said that.
Yeah. Jesse's in the living room kind of giving his routine, to the investigator, right? Like, just woke up. She was like that. I don't know what happened. And she's asking like, hey, just what's her, this information, right? And kind of revealing how short their relationship was.
Yeah.
What's her date of birth? And he doesn't know. And Donald coming out from the back has to fill in.
Yeah. Yep. Tells her, city of birth. This is where we find that out. Donald finds the apology girl drawing.
Yeah.
And Jesse, the EMT says what they're going to do, ask Jesse if he wants to come. He says no. And Donald doesn't even acknowledge Jesse.
No.
Just walks out. That's the last time they'll see each other. Takes the drawing with him. That's it. And we cut over again to something that again is torturing Walt in a less profound way, but is a scene of celebration.
Yeah.
Money, more and more money's coming in. Walt's trying to get a hold of Jesse, ends up leaving a message, calls him from his toilet phone, his Sports Illustrated toilet phone, that's in the tank. there.
Yeah.
We cut over to the DEA. That plot's still going. Hank is passing around a jar for donations for Walt. Biggest donor gets a 6-pack of Schrader Brow, and then Gomi makes the excellent joke where he says, smallest donor gets 2.
It's really good.
That's a great joke. I always like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
Yeah. But this isn't just a donation drive. They're having an all hands meeting to kind of talk about some information that Hank has found. So he puts up Combo's photo on their investigation board for the blue meth. Calling it Blue Sky, right?
Yeah.
And saying like, hey, this Combo guy, he was so low rent that we weren't even watching him, right? But he was still, dealing this incredibly potent, new product. Like, how does this guy get a hold of that?
Yes. Gomi says, well, I think we got our guy, or APD says we got our guy, and he goes, no. Like, that's Jimmy In and Out. He's not our guy. This is fake. The Blue Sky stopped showing up on the streets, but Hank had a hunch, because one of the cool things about Hank, as much as he's racist and kind of a good old boy shithead at points, is he's really good at this.
Yep.
He's talented. He started calling around other bits of the Southwest and sees that the meth is showing up everywhere but New Mexico. Heisenberg is wised up. He's not shitting where he eats.
I need to go back and cross-reference, like do a freeze frame, because I think there's a map of where the Poyos locations are shown earlier,
nice.
like maybe in Gus's office. I imagine, or maybe this is just headcanon, each of those pins where this stuff shows up is where a Poyos restaurant is.
That'd be incredible. Like, they just in other states, he just serves it directly from the drive-through. It just when Hank's on the case.
But it's like, hey, Heisenberg is still active, but he's not shitting where he eats, basically.
Yep. Yeah. So it's dinner time at the White House. The family is watching the donations roll in on a laptop, and Walt gets a call from Saul. Mike found Jesse, but doesn't recommend Walt goes.
Yeah, they're waiting outside like, hey, police tend to watch this place. It's a bad idea, and that's if you don't get shot or mugged. Yeah. Right.
This is an area that is known as the shooting gallery here. This is the only thing in this episode I think dials it up a little bit much.
Yeah.
The spooky music and the haunted junkies. Like, I know that there are junkie dens. I'm not saying that this isn't realistic. This feels to me like my idea of what a junkie den would be.
It's like,
and I don't trust it.
It's like, okay, for this incredibly moving scene between Walt and Jesse, we're just going to set it in a church's hell house that they run on Halloween.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that you don't have to sell me on how bad drugs are. I just think they wouldn't be scary in a dare way. The same way. This feels like a dare ad.
Yeah.
To me, and I don't like the shooting gallery.
But yeah, this is like a trap house, right?
Yes.
Kind of dilapidated, rundown, basically no walls or ceiling.
Yes.
And full of, scary people, right?
Yeah.
I love Walt trying to get in, and the gangly bald guy standing there, and Walt getting in by just saying, yo.
Yeah. Walt, yo. Good ringtone out there for anybody who wants a good text tone, yo. He finds Jesse, walking past the scene of Hot American Summer where they go into town just for one day, and finds Jesse and grabs him, like, look at me, son, Jesse. Jesse first starts to fight him off in a heroin way.
Like you're robbing me. Like, he knows where he is.
Yeah. He's like, I'm fine. I'm like, and then Walt starts carrying him away. Jesse wakes up.
Yeah.
And realize he goes back to reality. He's been shooting heroin to get away from reality here, and starts saying, I killed her. It was me. Because he feels that guilt.
And this carry, Walt, like, picking him up, under his arms, turns into a hug. Jesse is leaning onto and leaning into Walt and just crying, making this, declaration. I killed her. It was me. And just heartbreaking performance on Aaron Paul. It's hard for me to see men cry.
Yeah.
But especially here, and just the delivery on, I loved her more than anything, and Walt's crying along with them, right? Like, this is, a catharsis of a kind, but not anything that, makes things better. Yeah.
I mean, it's an expression of love in an incredibly complicated scenario. here.
Yeah.
I love the way that Aaron Paul plays this because crying on TV and in media is always shown in a very unrealistic way to me. I've never liked it. It is too dignified. Like real, fight for your heart is fighting for its life. Crying is the ugliest you can be.
Yeah.
You turn out into a wadded up piece of paper.
Yeah.
Like you turn red. There's snot. It's really, really intense, and it's a violent act. And I really like it when an actor will embrace that rather than holding on to dignity, because it is, there's nothing wrong with crying. But when I say it's undignified, what I mean is you look unattractive and gross. It's an uncomposed act.
Yes.
At its best. And I think that too often in media, characters keep their composure.
I'm not
saying that's impossible. Yeah, you try to pretty cry, and that kind of shit sucks. Don't look for a sexy way to cry. It's like,
no.
Walt carries him out of the shooting gallery.
Act of love. Yeah.
Yep. Act of love, saving his life, undeniably. Right. We go over to Donald in Jane's apartment, looking for a funeral dress. And sees this mural of the bed, this picture of Jane being carried by these cosmic waves kind of thing. There's a picture of her favorite poet there, who is also Vince Gilligan's favorite poet. Just as little, little trivia. A fun trivia bit of production of this is that they had to be careful what they showed in this because it's just Jesse's room.
Okay, yeah. That makes sense.
They couldn't, so they were very choosy with their shots because they had to rebuild it.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, and it's more put together than Jesse's place is too.
Yeah,
more kind of dressed up. And Donald's on the phone with his, I presume it's his ex-wife.
It has to be.
Yeah, just kind of talking. Just Jane's mom is insisting, like, just she has this yellow dress, and he's like, when have you ever seen her like wearing a yellow dress? Right?
Yeah, you don't know her. Like, I love that little tiny little bit of environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
Like that he was closer with her. You get the sense that maybe her mother, wrote her off, like Jesse's parents, more than Donald did, who gave her, one too many chances.
No. Yeah. And again, Donald is flat here, right? Like he is dealing with business, and is going through the closet and finds a blue one. It is the closest thing that we get. Kind of this navy blue dress. Importantly, he says, no cleavage. Right.
Yep.
Like, yeah. So,
cut over to Walt changing Holly's diaper, but he keeps hearing more dings and the family cheering. And he comes in, he kind of snaps at his son. Turn it down. It's bothering the baby. It's not bothering the baby.
I love French response, but Dad, it's money.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
Yeah.
Skylar is on the phone with Marie, and she has big news. She goes and tells Flynn, "Hey, you're going to be in the newspaper here. They're going to put because your website, they're going to put you in the news." This is the worst thing that could ever happen to Walt. Here so far, in this moment, like he's being a little baby. This is just his shitty masculine pride.
Yeah. Now everybody's getting on this charity case.
Yeah, exactly. But it is getting him. You know.
Just more hits, and then just I love Walt's wow, because they're expecting some kind of reaction from him, and he just very flatly says wow.
Yeah, it's he's not very good at this. We cut over to ASAC of the DA. I can't remember this guy's name, but he calls Hank out to meet with some drug enforcement agency donors from the community. He introduces them all, and they reveal that the final one in the line is Fring. It's Gustavo Fring.
Yeah, please, just Gus. Gus is doing his like very gregarious, like smiling man kind of thing here. He is, it makes perfect sense why he would be a donor, right? To be a contributor to the fight against drugs and try to be, a benefit to the community, right?
Yep. I love this. And then he, Hank describes what he does, and then Gus looks over and sees the donation jar for Walt. Now, we know Gus probably already knew that Hank was in the DA. I think what I read this as is Gus learning that Walt has cancer. I could see that was a better kept secret we're going to find out Walt's mom didn't even know. So when Gus looked into Walt, which we know canonically happened because of Better Call Saul, but we would know in either case that's something he would do.
Yes,
I imagine he knew about Hank.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if he knew that Hank was a DEA agent at this point.
I think that it would make no sense if he didn't.
Yeah,
if so, I feel like that's contradictory to what comes later. But I think he's learning that he has cancer.
Yeah. And then he pulls out some money and insists he's going to give. Yeah. He's going to give to this.
Yeah. Walt is over with Jesse at a rehab center. There, he's talking about he's not going to be able to come around for a little while because he has this surgery coming up. And Jesse, he's cleaned up, but he's still unresponsive.
Yeah. And he tries to get him to buck up, right? Look, Jesse, lingering on things doesn't help, believe me. And Jesse, kind of gives a little bit of a thesis for how he's going to be in season 3, at least for the first half of it, which is, I deserve this. What you said in the desert, I get it now. Right. During 4 Days Out, when Walt was like, oh, I deserve to die in the desert because of all the lies and stuff.
Yeah.
But now Jesse feels it. Jesse knows I deserve whatever happens.
Yes. The surface tragedy of this is, the surface read of Walt being responsible and Jesse having this guilt. Jesse is also responsible.
Yes.
For getting Jane off the wagon. Walt gets home from this, very tough scene to find the local news crew there. Yep. Marie talked them up and they ended up actually doing a TV spot here. And
Marie is in this incredibly flashy purple dress and nobody else is dressed up.
It's very funny. The TV person starts, let's just get you right between dad and mom, starts doing the interview.
The TV interviewer is Lady Scrubs. It is
Lady Scrubs.
Yeah. But just getting Walt there on this couch, and he looks like somebody's ripping his fingernails off. Just Walt is doing such a good job with, or Cranston is doing such a good job with this. Yeah. And Marie,
actually heartbreaking, like Walt Jr., how much admiration he has.
He's just decent. He always does the right thing, and that's how he teaches me to be. My dad is my hero.
Yeah, would you say your dad's your hero? Oh, definitely, my dad is my hero. Just like, just very, Bobby.
Yeah. And I mean, there's an awful lot of the shitty masculinity to what Walt is feeling about the donations coming in, right?
Yes.
You could also think like, hey, this is way too much publicity. Like, what if somebody starts paying attention to this? All of that there. But also, like, he's perverted something very nice that his son has done. Yes. I don't know how foregrounded that is for how Walt is feeling, or like if Bryan Cranston is like putting any of that in there. But like, he's up here talking about the only reason he is here saying all this stuff is because the money laundering thing, because it is such a
he's turned his son into a liar.
Yes,
like in terms of Walt making everyone around him culpable, Walt Jr. gets off pretty better than anyone. In terms of culpability. Even Holly gets kidnapped, but he's not innocent. In this, it's great stuff. Incredibly complicated.
Funny beat. Marie tries to remind Walt to smile, and he just puts on this grimace. He looks like the grimace emoji. Walt was originally going to be sick on the interviewer's shoes in the original script. Glad they didn't do that.
No. I don't think it would have been a tragedy. It would have been okay.
No.
It's fine that it didn't happen too, though. It probably need to be cut because unnecessary. Go to the hospital where the nurse gives Walt an injection to calm him down before the surgery, and he immediately becomes Walt after dentist. And just it's great.
And Flynn and Skylar hug him at the same time. It's very sweet. Like just before somebody goes into surgery, right? And Walt remarks on how loopy the drugs make him feel. I love like the jaw working, which is absolutely something that happens.
Yep. Stuff's pretty good. And Skylar just looks at him lovingly, like this is an intense thing to have happen. Again, this is a risky surgery. She takes his glasses and says, "Hey, where's your phone?" And he says, "Which one?" And this little reminder of being brought back to Earth. Just awful here. The idea that this just reminds her of these things. She wasn't stupid. She knew that stuff was going on, but she maybe was able to live with the lie. and this just reminding her that you cannot suffer a lie.
No.
Or she cannot suffer a lie to live.
Yeah. And just the immediate turn on her face when that happens, contrasted with the look of total love as he was being goofy, right? And then we get the surgery. Stuff. We get the surgery montage. The needle drops are steadily getting better.
They're definitely I don't know this song or anything. I just got frustrated by the band being called Chocolate Genius. I don't know why. I'm just like
yeah.
There's something about that band name. kind of bums me out.
I don't know anything about the band. It's a good contrast for, again, I mean, a little bit of a parallel with the way that Jane's body was malhandled, right? But just a person who was under, they need to get access to you need to be wrenched around, just the violence of like putting in the spreader so they can go in,
the mechanics
and
the stuff, opening your ribs like a cabinet. We cut to 3 months in the future, I want to say.
Think
it
so?
Is the Walt at the oncologist office with the surgeon, with Skylar, and the visiting surgeon from Freaks and Geeks. He's wearing a bright pink sweater. He has a goatee now, which he'll have for basically the whole series. And he's in a really good spirits, and Skylar is anxious. Obviously,
I love her twisting her wedding ring. She's just trying to do like a rolling start on ripping that bad boy off.
She's doing a sonic spin dash.
But it's all good news. They've bought time. There's no reason not to be optimistic. And Skylar is like, oh, so when's he? Is he going to get back to his normal working routine? Like I'll probably like start easing into it. He's like, but he can be on his own, and then it hangs. I mean, just more independent. And then they say, yes, use your best judgment. Which she does.
It's great. We cut to, Donald returns to work. A coworker greets him, and he's like, hey, I'm really sorry. He's like, no, I need to come back to work. This is where I need to be.
This is brutal. Oh my gosh.
Absolutely brutal. And this is where you learn he's an air traffic controller. You can put everything together at this point if you're watching it the first time.
Yes.
Skylar, Walt comes out and he's doing goofs. There's parallels to this scene when he comes out after the fugue state. And it's like, I was thinking about going down to 7-Eleven naked. Same kind of thing. He comes out, he's like, I think this looks pretty good, and Skylar's packing up her clothing, packing up her stuff. One of the things about Walt is, as much as he is good at social manipulation, it's entirely like chess. It's entirely intellectual, right?
Yes.
So like a thing that is true, and this has always been true in every relationship I've ever been in, is when something's fucking wrong with your partner. There's no way to hide it.
No.
Like you can sense it. If you're paying any attention at all, you immediately know something's wrong. For him to have gone through this whole thing and had blinders on to this is wild. It shows a lot of selfishness.
Yes.
And he's been concentrating on recovery. They had his ribs open like a fucking cabinet. I understand that's scary, but him missing the signs, this coming out of nowhere is nuts for him. Not nuts like bad plotting, nuts because like bad bad character nuts. Quality. Yes. Not a bad character, but bad quality in a character.
Yes. Yeah. And also Skylar can be, like we see how she can be manipulative as well, right?
Yeah. And she's better at acting than he is. Like if she has to put on the face, she's much better at it.
Yeah. But she's resolved, and she's being very matter of fact about this. In fact, she doesn't escalate until he does. But she says, I'm going to Hank and Marie's for the weekends. Marie's going to pick up Flynn. Don't worry about that. I'm taking Holly. You have all weekend to pack your things. You're out of here on Monday.
Yep. And Walt asks why, and she says, "You're a liar, Walt. When you're going under, you talked about the second cell phone."
Yeah.
And he says, I would have said anything. I was all goofed up. And she's like, no, I think you accidentally told the truth. And I love this scene so much. This is such a fucking mic drop moment for Skylar.
Oh, it's so good.
I love Skylar. But just this idea of him thinking he has the upper hand this whole time, and not, it's so good. Like, she's like, oh, that got me thinking, the strange behavior, the fugue state. I always had, I just had to believe that, right?
Yeah. Why would anybody lie
about such a thing? I love that question. And Walt says, oh, Walt does a classic Walt trick we've seen him do before, which is shunt onto something false that he can truthfully deny.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you think I'm having an affair? Just give me a Bible. I'll swear on it. I'm not doing that, And she's like, I did think that, I thought it was with Gretchen Schwartz. Yeah. But then I called her and she ducked me. But eventually,
just the way that she is going back to the beginning on this, like with the strange behavior and stuff was weird, but then concrete stuff, started happening, like showing that she was paying attention, and I mean, kind of just like she stuck around after the surgery, like she, for her own conscience, needs to believe that he is not going to be dying and sick when this happens, right? Yes. She is no longer trapped now that he has this good prognosis.
Yes. And it's possible that without him mentioning the second cell phone, she would have, the lie agreed upon would have held.
Yes.
Right. Because as we're going to find out, he does try to get out.
Yeah.
This is a wake up call that ultimately has a chance of working.
Yeah. But she called Gretchen. Yeah.
Yep. Finds out the money was never given. And then she's like, oh, maybe we haven't been paying. She checks in with the doctor and we're all paid up except for the surgery. So it's over $100,000.
Out of where? Out of thin air? Yeah. And then I like how she turns this kind of like sexy and teasing about it a little bit. Like she's really twisted, like just wringing him like a washcloth. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Like not sexy, but just kind of intimate, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
She's, yeah. It's not a very sexy scene.
No, but I mean, like it's I don't know. There's just something about I love it. I just love this as like a knife twisting thing, getting right up and whispering. But then I called your mother.
Yeah, thanks for that. I love that Walt's mother is this legendary. She's probably the ultimate villain. It makes Tuco, like the way that people talk about her and how bad it would be to visit her. She's probably like 1,000 Tucos.
Gotta get something in a kill a Tuco.
Yeah. It's like, maybe she did the work of trying to come up with, she fan theoried it. Like what are ways that he could have done this? Because clearly it's not the worst thing. Maybe his mother has some money I didn't know about. And not only did he not visit, but she didn't even know he had cancer.
Yeah.
Fucking nuts. And Walt is losing it. He, every time he thinks he has the upper hand here, he's trying to like explain away, his words are failing him and it's his weapon. He calls to her, he tries to hug, and she just says, could you just once do me the courtesy of not denying it? Like, don't end this on a lie. She leaves and he follows her, begging her to stay and says, if I tell you the truth, will you stay? She says, whatever it is, I'm afraid to know. It's a really interesting kind of inflection point in this. The idea, like, I believe him that he would have told her the truth if she stayed. He tells her the truth in season 3. She comes up to ask for a divorce and he's like, yeah, I deal meth.
I'm slinging.
I'm slinging meth. I'm a manufacturer. I'm not a dealer, but he does that. So like that is a way this story could have gone. Skylar's not prepared to hear it though. And she leaves essentially everything Walt has worked for ostensibly, like to his thing of this family, putting this family together, is now gone.
Yes.
Like he will lose the thing that he made these sacrifices for.
Yes. That he made himself a murderer for.
Yeah. Absolutely fucking nuts. Like murderer has gone through intense pain, for murder, hurt other people, so much pain, so much tragedy, and for nothing.
Yep. Only to be hated, only to be reviled.
Yeah. It's incredible stuff.
Yeah.
We cut over to Donald. He's doing air traffic control stuff, changing, all altitude levels and stuff. He accidentally says Jane in the call code.
Juliet. Juliet. Yeah. For J. NATO for J. Yeah.
Yeah. There's one for those for police and one for NATO. I used to know all the police ones from when I was a dispatcher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. I think Jay is John in that one. So he's sweating and he's getting worse at it.
Yeah.
He's getting slower. This part, I always feel like there should probably be more safeties in place for someone being slightly too slow.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, or just also just like a guy doing his job, but just doing it a little bit slowly, and that causes two planes to crash to each other.
Yeah, kind of seems pretty high stakes for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand that air traffic control is really tough, and people, it's a really, really stressful, profession, but it's just like, it didn't seem like he fucked up that bad, And I also, there's levity added to this with that amazing Bedtime Stories episode about a very similar thing that is just the funniest fucking.
Not again.
Oh, God damn it. If people listening to this have never seen that, there's a Bedtime Stories episode about Will Forte as an air traffic controller this keeps happening to, and they just kind of bust him down to smaller planes. They can't fire him.
And then he, it's because he can't sleep, so he hires a suspect agency to come in and have him do the
sleep
goo
specialist.
The
gaga. He has to milk splash in the bucket.
Oh, sorry. Yes, I got confused.
And crawl around like a bear. So anyway, the two circles overlap. Two planes are going to directly collide.
Yes.
And as this is happening, Walt is sitting out by the pool, just moping. Hears the explosion, looks up and sees this huge fireball, and all the debris start raining down.
Yeah. And we get the POV from the teddy bear as it falls into the pool, making a big splash. They used an air cannon to do that. And then the bear is just in the pool, and everything but the pink of the bear fades out to black and white. The bear is the same color as Walt's sweater, a touch that I do not like. It's a little too a
little too much. In the mural in Jane's closet, there's a pink teddy bear.
There's also a bear.
Yeah. That kind of clever shit can go to hell. I never like it when writers do that. There's no point. But this is an ending. It's I've had more than a decade to come to peace with the Magnolia, Walt causes a plane crash indirectly thing. The way it articulates ends up, I'm buying what I was sold, even though it was a long journey.
Long process of thinking about it. And I mean, just kind of seeing the whole series play out and understanding just the ways in which season 2 is weird and what they were kind of like gesticulating towards. I think also the Walt's reaction to it in S3E1 does a lot to help that as well.
Yeah, even though it's kind of a comedy beat in that episode. But the fact that they don't go back to it makes me happy.
Except for Walt, or except for Saul always keeping the pin on. For the Wayfarer.
No, not that they don't go back to the plot point. I mean, they don't go back to another. When they talk about it, on one of the commentaries, they talked about how they started the pilot as a circular episode. Like it starts with Walt in the desert and ends with Walt in the desert, and they had the idea of doing a whole season that way. Is part of where this came from, and I'm really glad they didn't, do that.
That they did it and got out of their system.
Season 4 starts with the ruins of a nursing home or some bullshit, and then you have to play fun detective to try to guess all the ways that could happen. And have and get tricked. I'm really glad that this thing became more artful than that. That's a stunt.
Yes,
that's a gimmick, and this show is above that.
Just
masterful episode. And again, I think in terms of across the board, the best performances we've gotten. Nobody is not doing their best work on par with their best work in this episode. And sad to see John Delancey go, because he's so perfect for that role.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, no, Donald suffers a tragic fate, which is again because Walt is main character. It also is kind of treated like just a little extra fuck you to him, the way he learns about it. Awful. And we get a status quo because Walt is about to become the second most divorced man alive.
Bachelor. He sleeps in a racing car. Pool party. He's gonna be able to do. It's gonna be great. I love all of that stuff. I love the beginnings of the Super Lab shit. All of this, I'm very excited. I think season 3 is real fun. Before we get to that, we are going to have our season 2 wrap up episode where we talk about the special features, including the Twat Hammer music video that are on the season 2 DVD, and read your responses to season 2.
Yes.
So if you have those,
It might possibly be too late. I'll put something out on socials.
Ahead for the show.
Yeah.
Well, which is good. But we're ahead.
It's worth saying that, like, as you have thoughts about a season as we're recording about it, you can just write in. You can just go to Duckfeed.tv/contact and use the best quality vacuum button to fill in there. It doesn't have to be a big push for the end.
Yeah. And if something happens and we miss your response and it's good, I'm not saying that in a mean way. If it's we could read it in the next one too.
Yeah.
We're not beholden like, oh, this isn't about the right season, even though it's a great story and it's a really good point. We're not going to read it. Like, there's no governing body. We're not nerds.
Yeah.
So we'll do that.
We're not nerds. Come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, not that kind. I'm not that kind of nerd, and I keep you in check. I'm a different kind of nerd. So thank you, everybody. We appreciate you going on this journey. I'm really excited to worth noting as well, there's a release now for the Venture Brothers movie.
Oh yes.
July 15th, I think. We keep your orb. We'll be doing that as well. That may be 2-parter because it's a movie. So get that RSS, keep that updated if you were in that crossover. If you, because these shows replace each other, I imagine the audiences of those two subject matters don't necessarily overlap one-to-one. But if so, keep an eye on the orb feed.
Come along. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think that's about it. I mean, it's it for
Gwen.
me. Thank you, Gwen.
Thank you, Gwen, composer of our theme song and producer. Thank you for rating reviews. Thank you for going on this journey with us. And until next time, I know the last 3 of them have been don't do heroin. What else did they not do? I guess.
Take a little bit more time off. Just take, in general, like not even like bereavement.
Yes.
Just take more time off.
It might feel good to go back to work, to distract yourself, but keep in mind that you owe a debt to other people as well. You have a responsibility.